Hello, hello.
Shalom, Rebbe.
How's it going?
Baruch Hashem, I am surviving.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let's start ourselves off here. Does anyone have any questions that they want to begin with? Any questions? Go ahead. Now's your chance to start off. Any questions that anybody has?
Yeah, I have a question. So
Sure.
I typed up my article. So what do I do with it now? I don't have a Google Drive, so
okay, so you can just email it to me. Okay. I'm gonna put my email in the thing.
Okay.
Here's my email, and you can just email it to me. Just fine. Okay. Now you are set. I'm in the WhatsApp thing. I put my email. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. So was that the only question anybody has? Truth is, very little has happened this week. Israel is just under a complete lockdown with Corona, and nobody's really thinking about anything else here. It's just like everyone's just okay, get us out of here. We hate this. We can't stand like this anymore. So that's the only thing that people really are thinking about here. With the American elections coming up, America's not really thinking about making any major moves, right? So Congress is all up for election. All 435 members of Congress are up for election, and let's see here, and 33 members of the Senate are up for election. So you're talking about Congress is really just home in their districts running for office. Even Ted Deutsch is campaigning, which is shocking because his opponent is some guy named Jim who no one's ever heard of before. So even he's doing stuff in the district. And then so there's really like just nothing going on. There are positive things happening. There's a lot of movement between the UAE and Israel, a lot of connections being made. So that's always good to see. And but besides that, there's like nothing really happening. So there's no like news that really is going on. It's just like just regular stuff happening. So there's not really anything. I had an idea. Tell me what you guys think about this. There's no scientific way of doing this, meaning there's no way of really doing this in a way that we can know that the people answering the question are real or anything like that. But how cool would it be if each of us on our social media, in our schools, for those that are in American schools, did a mock election on like within our like social circles, like a Jewish teenager mock election, so that we at the end we said like X percentage voted for President Trump and X percentage voted for Vice President Biden, and then just see where it comes out. Anybody interested in doing that? Rachel's like, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you just put on your thing, like I got Instagram, easy poll, like who not till November 3rd, but on November 3rd, put that out there and then see what the results are. And then we could say, let's say we get 1,000 teenagers to answer, right? And then we say, right, Americans. So like, so we want to get American. And again, there's no way of verifying. There's no way of verifying that you don't have some adult answering your question, or that somebody not Jewish is answering. But it would be cool if we roll like with a little asterisk that said this was a non-scientific poll, but this is how Jewish American teenagers voted. Does this like have any enthusiasm here among people here, or not so much? No, not really. Could be maybe get like a half a thumb up from Rebecca. Jordan's like, I'll be polite and smile.
It takes time to set up.
What?
it take time to set up to make sure like all of my followers could see the Jews could see it, rather than not my vast amount of goyim.
How just curious, because I know social media pretty well, but I've yet to know how you would be able to filter out Gentile teenagers. How do you have something on your Instagram that I don't have?
No, I don't have. I didn't download a racist mod on my
Right.
Instagram.
So
No, but there's an option called this thing called friends only stories. So I'll just change my friends only for being my friends to just Jews.
wow. In the wrong hands, I can see
I know, I'm a real
really badly. But okay, so however you want to go ahead and do this, I think it would be cool if we could go ahead and do something like this. I think it would just be interesting to say that we did something like this and put it out there. If anyone has any other ideas of how to go about doing this, I'm all ears. Other than just like polling your friends. I think it would be cool, or like if we did in like our schools, right? So if I don't know right now which school Rebecca and I think and Rachel go to the same school, right? So do we just lose Rachel? Oh, no, there's Rachel. Okay, so I think Rebecca and Rachel, right? Don't you guys go to the same school? Am I incorrect there? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So if like you guys walked around like the hall one day and just said, "Who would you vote for?" Who are you voting for? Put it right here. Yeah. And then Shlomi, you could do it through NCSY. And Carol, you also go to the same school as them. Okay, and I could do it at Sheck Hill. I can get the Sheck Hill kids to do it, and then we could see where it goes. I think it'd be interesting. Okay. If not, then not. Rafi, you probably have 1 million Americans in your school. Odai, you probably have like 5 or 6, right? Sure, you don't go to school, so okay, so that's like right. So we could.
I have a lot.
What? I didn't hear what you
I
said.
have a lot of Americans in my school, but none who Joe Biden is. But they all hate Donald Trump. So it's like not gonna get anywhere with that.
Okay, well, I'm saying we're not aiming for one of the two candidates to win, right? It's interesting. I saw 2 polls tonight that I'm going to assume, for argument's sake, are somewhat valid. I saw a poll a poll in Israel that was 66% of Israelis, a little more than 66% of Israelis favor Donald Trump, and 18% favor Joe Biden. Okay. That, by the way, means absolutely nothing. Like it's Israelis, and no American is like, oh, Israelis favor Donald Trump, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. So that poll really has zero influence on anyone's vote. What I did see was interesting was that Donald Trump is polling at 30% of the Jewish vote. Now I'm going to tell you something like incredibly cool, okay, which could be true, could not be true. Okay, one thing that you have to understand about polls, and if you speak to any pollster, they'll tell you this: polls tell you almost nothing. Okay, so when you like, I still remember. It's crazy, you guys. The oldest person on this call, besides me and Geller, it could be possibly 18 years old, right? Which means in the last election, you were 14 years old, which is insane. Okay, that's the oldest person here. So I remember the last election. The last election I was actually in Los Angeles for. I landed on election day in America in 2016 and was in LA. And there's no better place to be than on the West Coast for the election, because you don't have to stay up till 1 a.m. for elections. And I actually was out. I don't know why I'm telling the story, but I'll tell you, it's just interesting. I was out at dinner in a restaurant in LA, and there's a bar in the restaurant, and the bar was rented out by Hillary Clinton volunteers as a victory party. And by the time I got there at like 8 p.m., which is 11 p.m. in New York, in Washington, so they were gone drunk celebrating, like gone, which means that they had already been drinking for at least an hour celebrating. So you figure they're drinking from 7 p.m. They had already to themselves declared victory. And I'm sitting there, and there's a big TV in the corner that they have showing the election results. And I'm watching this, and I'm, totally blank face, not showing anyone, was just watching. And then they called Ohio for President Trump. And that's when, like, okay, we're sending our bills. Everyone's sobered up. Party was over. Everyone walked out because that's when they knew. And what they had was, the reason why I'm telling this story, thankfully I remembered where I was going with this, was that they had all the polls. They didn't just have polls. Every year they like redo the polls and have some cool feature on the polls. That in 2016, the cool feature they had was they were able to take the polls and the exit polls, which means what they're asking people as they walk out, like who do you vote for, and create the percentage of chance of this person winning. So until about 8 p.m., based on exit polls and everything else that they were factoring in, there was a 90% chance of Hillary Clinton winning the election. Going into 8 p.m. in LA, right? So that's 11 p.m. in New York, right? That's when the polls are closed in New York already. They're saying it's a 90% chance. When Ohio was called, which is one of the big swing states, I'll explain what that means in a second. So when Ohio was called, everything switched then to, it went from like, the New York Times had 90%, a guy named Nate Silvers that was the big pollster in America until he blew 2 elections like this. But 90% going to Hillary. And then at 8 p.m. it went down to, I think it dropped to like 40% Hillary. And then when Florida went, it went to like, at that point, it went down to like 15% Hillary, 85% Donald Trump. And that's when everyone's like, holy moly, that's crazy. Donald Trump, by the way, there's a bunch of books that came out on the Trump administration. One was done with the Trump family. There's really little value in reading it. It's just essentially what Donald Trump wanted printed in a book, which is no different than what he says out loud. So, but one interesting thing that they had was talking about election night, how the Trumps gathered, not in like this big ballroom, like, you know, they're very into grandiose showings of things, but they were just in the family kitchen hunkering down for the loss, you know, and like having to just the family, like 2-3 campaign, like heads of the campaign. But other than that, it was just the family. And then at a certain point, Ivanka walks in and says, like, Dad, I think we're going to win this. Like, and they're like, no. It's like, we lost. Like, it's okay. Yeah. And the Clinton campaign had popped champagne already. There's a video. It's very hard to find, but there's a video of Hillary and Bill Clinton toasting each other at victory. Like they had already declared victory. So my point is that polls mean absolutely nothing. That being said, today a poll came out and said that 30% of the American Jewish community is voting for Donald Trump. Now you'll say like 30%. Okay, we know American Jews don't vote Republican. They all vote Democrat. So 30% makes sense, except, okay, here's the big thing. Except that American Jewish Democrats, the American Jewish community usually votes 75% Democrat. Okay, so that means there's a 5% change. The only candidate, the only Republican since before like Jimmy Carter, because Jimmy Carter was, the American Jewish community looked at Jimmy Carter in 1980 as essentially the devil incarnate. Okay, it was like they looked at him as voting in an Arab leader. They really hated Jimmy Carter. Okay, so Reagan got a tremendous, I don't remember the percentage, but excluding Reagan, okay, the American Jewish community has never voted, except once, I'll explain the once in a minute, has never voted more than 25% Democrat, except for one time. Okay, besides the Jimmy Carter, because that's an aberration. Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney got close to 30% of the Jewish vote. Now you'll sit there and say, okay, so Mitt Romney lost, right? So that's going to be the one flaw in my argument here, okay? But here's my argument. You'll say 5% of the Jewish vote. There are how many Americans, Jewish Americans? Let's say 5 million Jewish Americans, okay? So let's say half of them vote, right? Because a lot of them are children, okay? So they don't vote, right? And a lot of people just don't vote, right? So let's say you're talking about, at best, 2 million American Jewish voters, okay? So that's 5% is about 100,000 people, okay? Elections are decided by millions of people. Okay, so you'll say, who cares if 100,000 people switch from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party in one election? What's the difference? Well, here's the difference. Okay, everyone knows which way California is going to go. Okay, California is going to vote for Joe Biden, and remember, it doesn't work by a popular vote; it works by electoral votes. Which, if you pay attention in 6th grade, that means that and if you didn't pay attention, you probably have been sitting there the last 10 years of your life going, I don't know what this is talking about. What college is this? How come it's not on my list of colleges to apply to? How come no one goes to electoral college? I've never heard of anyone graduating. They never make the March Madness. What's the electoral college? So every state has votes that they get, okay? And it's winner. Most states are winner takes all, which means that if you win California, you have, 60, probably 40, 50, 60 votes that go towards the president, and you have to win those votes. You have to get to, I think the magic number is 270 of how many electoral college votes you need to get. Okay, it's a little more complicated than that. I'm skipping over because you should have paid attention in 6th grade. And if not, I'm sure if you just type it to YouTube, please explain to me the electoral college in less than 60 seconds. I'm sure there's a video out there. Okay, so the point is that's it. So California, it doesn't make a difference. This is why Donald Trump will never, and no Republicans ever campaign in California, because it's a Democratic state. You're not going to win any of those states. So there are actually only a very few states that count. Okay, which states count? Always Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania are the big states that count. Why? Because those states have a lot of electoral college votes, and they're what are called swing states. You don't know which way they're going to go. They have about an even amount of Republicans, Democrats, so nobody knows. So for instance, right now, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are even in Florida. No one knows which way that's going to go. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of campaigning in Florida. Okay, I'm on like every list from every campaign. Okay, and the only place that they want me doing volunteer phone calls are to Florida and Pennsylvania. That's it. They don't want me calling people in California. They don't want me calling people in Texas. Okay. Other states that are important, Wisconsin and Michigan. Okay. These are the only states that really matter because they're the only ones that can't be definitively predicted. Does everybody understand this? Okay. If you don't understand, say be like, this doesn't make any sense to me. What are you talking about? Or I didn't get this one point. Don't be embarrassed. Obviously, if you don't understand, somebody else doesn't understand. Rebecca?
This might sound like sort of stupid, but like, why do people in California even bother voting? Like, if you're a Republican, if you know that it's a Democratic state.
Many don't. Many don't, and many people go to vote for a member of Congress, and while they're there, vote again. I voted in I just threw out my Florida ballot, but I could have showed you that my Florida ballot was 3 pages long. My absentee ballot was 3 pages long. The last 2 pages I didn't even fill out. I'm going to judge this, the amendment this. I don't know what this is about. I've never looked into this. So garbage, It's not, it doesn't matter to me. I don't know what these things are. It's not going to affect my life in any way. So I don't vote. But other people, they just sit there like, or it actually matters to them because it's local and they know what they're talking about. And while you're there, you vote for president. But most people, they know it doesn't matter. So they don't. Okay, so everybody got it so far? Okay, now that you understand that piece of information, let's go to our Jewish American polls, 100,000 voters. Where do Jewish Americans live? How many of them live in Wyoming? Very few Jewish Americans in Wyoming, right? Very few. So where do Jewish Americans live? Let's go through those states again. Ohio, Pennsylvania, Florida. Jewish Americans actually live prominently. If you take out New York and California, they predominantly live in swing states. And if swing states are decided by 10,000 votes here or there, sometimes like in the George Bush Al Gore election, by 800 votes, 100,000 person swing from election to election is earth-shattering. Earth-shattering. So, and you see the head of the Jewish Republican Coalition, Matt Brooks, tonight tweeted when he saw this poll, and everyone's like, see, Biden's sweeping again. He's up by 37 points among Jewish Americans. And he's like, that doesn't matter. We're not looking to get the majority of Jews. That's never going to happen. Jewish Americans don't vote on Jewish issues. So they vote on Democratic issues. So we're never going to get them. It doesn't matter, but we're not looking to get them. What are we looking to get? We're looking to swing 5 or 6% of the Jewish vote. That's all we're trying to grab. So that's a huge. If Donald Trump is actually polling, and this poll is correct, is actually polling at 30%, that means that you're looking at something that nobody's recognizing, that he's killing in the Jewish community like no Republican since Mitt Romney. Okay, now Mitt Romney couldn't get the evangelicals and everybody else on board, so he couldn't win that majority. So this is a sign of something. I don't know what it is, but it's a sign of the unusual. Okay, any questions? Yes, Rebecca.
Yeah, when you say Trump has 30%, so you're saying Biden has 70% or like 30%?
68%, yeah, something like that.
So isn't that better? That
Yeah,
isn't
it's
Biden
better,
bigger?
but the election isn't decided by Jews. So I'm saying, so if he swings, if he can get 5% of the people that voted for Hillary Clinton this time, right, of the Jews that vote for Hillary Clinton now vote for Donald Trump, right, and they switch, right? Hillary Clinton got over 70% of the Jewish vote. So if he gets a couple of people to switch, and a couple of percentage, we're talking about tens of thousands of Jews, and he gets those people to switch, and those tens of thousands of people live in a swing state, then you're talking about it can really make a big difference, okay? It doesn't mean it's going to, right? Again, I want to make sure everybody's understanding here. I'm not saying, hey, guys, I have some secret insight here that, right, this is very public information. I'm just saying that it is remarkable because you would never think that Donald Trump would be polling this high in the American Jewish community based on media reports. Okay, I would never think that. If you would ask me to name, we just did a Jewish poll, this is what we think. What do you predict, Jewish? I would have predicted somewhere around 22-23% for Donald Trump and somewhere around 76, 77% for Joe Biden. That would have been my prediction. So I was shocked when I saw that poll. Okay? Okay, so let's go on here. Okay, any other questions? Okay, let's talk about yeah, sorry, go ahead, show me.
When is the article due? Like the points?
This Thursday,
Do you want it in bullet points or in paragraph form?
Whatever, it
want
doesn't
in
matter.
Paragraph
This
or
Thursday.
bullet point form?
Whatever you'd like.
Okay.
Feel better. I'm gonna have to rework it no matter what. So whatever you feel better in, but this Thursday, please, would be great. Okay. Okay. Good, everyone. Everyone, any other questions here? Okay. Let's get moving here. Okay, let's go on. Okay, so let's go. Let's talk about what we had started last week and see how far we can get here as to why the Palestinians don't have a state. Right? That's the question that we were asking. Why don't the Palestinians have a state? Okay, so I don't remember how like into the question we got last time. Anybody want to sum it up for us? Anybody remember? Not so much. Could be Rebecca. Come on! I saw Rebecca's gonna take care of it, and she's like,
No, I mean we didn't, like, you just asked us the question and then I think you took, oh sorry, and then I think you took answers, but I don't think any of them were like, I don't know.
What was? Can you tell me how I phrased the question?
Yeah, you said that, like, imagine like if you like came up to like a Palestinian person who's like lived there as long as they could remember, like their family, like the people before them lived there, and then like they ask you like, oh, you have a state, why don't I, or something, like what would you say to them or something?
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, fine. So you walk up to a Palestinian says to you, listen, my family's been on this land for 300 years. How come I don't have a state? Right? So what's the answer that you would give? Okay, that's the question. Okay, what would you say to a Palestinian that says, you're a Jew, you want a state, I want a state. So what's your answer to that question? Anyone want to give a shot? Did we do this last time we went around? Everybody gave a shot? Yes. Okay, we did. Okay, great. So now you want me to give the answer? Okay. So here's what I would say. Okay, here's what I would say to a Palestinian. So the first thing is, okay, Palestinian or pro-Palestinian, by the way, one of the things that I want to stress to you, whether this is in Congress, when you're lobbying or having a discussion with somebody online, or when you get to college and you're having this discussion, I would say 90% chance. Let me ask you this. In your mind, when you're having this conversation, who are you having this conversation with? What does the person look like? Go ahead, somebody besides Rebecca, who's been talking the entire time. What is the person that's sitting across from you and you're having this conversation with? What do they look like? What are they doing? What's in your mind? What are you imagining here? Okay, Jordan. It's not class. You don't have to. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I imagine a friend of mine, and she's like sitting at a desk near me,
Okay.
and like she maybe brings something up, like I don't know, like she mentioned something about maybe she's going home because she's Palestinian. She has her family comes from Palestine, so maybe she mentions going to see them over the holidays or something, and
Okay.
like maybe she sort of makes a comment about, like, I don't know, it would be cool if, like, there's like some way she could go without having to go through Israel, right?
Okay. This is a real friend that you have.
Yeah. Well, not super close.
Okay, fine. But I'm saying, but this is an actual person. This is not like, okay. Okay. Anyone else? No one else wants to go venture forward here. What's going on in your mind when I ask this question? Okay. So let me, yeah. So I think that Jordan is the exception here. I think that, well, sorry. I think that Jordan's correct in that that's what everyone's trying to picture, but no one else has anybody that they know that's Palestinian, right? Chances are, I imagine. So you're like, okay, I guess I just ran into some random Palestinian somehow and had a conversation, but I don't really know what they look like because I don't have any Palestinian friends, so I don't know. So that's all I want to tell you, that chances are this conversation is going to be had with a fellow Jew, right? That's when you're on college campus, when you're in a member of Congress's office, chances are it's a fellow Jew who's pro-Palestinian. When you look at the biggest Palestinian activists in the world today, okay, the people that are consistently taking the Palestinian narrative and using it as their side of the argument, that's generally a Jewish person. Okay, that is generally not a Palestinian person, and it's not somebody that is that's like your classic militant Palestinian. Okay, so Talia has a good question. Talia says, "Why? Why is it generally a Jew?" So this is my theory on the matter. Okay, my theory on the matter is that Jewish people care more than, and again, this is general. Okay, I'm generalizing, so not saying that only Jews. But I'm saying, but what I've observed is that Jewish people generally care about the downtrodden more than most other populations of people. Doesn't mean that there aren't Gentiles that don't care about the downtrodden. It doesn't mean that there aren't Jews that don't care about people. But generally, Jews are trained. It's in our culture to care about people that look like they have been persecuted. Excuse me. They look like they're the underdogs. That's generally how Jews are. It's a good trait. We're merciful people and we're compassionate and we're considerate of others. That's a general thing. And the way that the narrative is portrayed, the Palestinian narrative is portrayed, is that the Jews are the powerful people, the Israelis are the powerful people, right? We are, and the Palestinians are the poor people who are the victims. That's generally how things are taken, and therefore Jews that are unfamiliar with the facts don't necessarily feel a connection to their own people as much as they feel bad about Palestinians, okay, and feel bad about the victims, and especially if they think that their own people are doing something wrong, then they feel they have to overcompensate. So you'll see that most of these movements are populated by Jewish people, right? Some of the worst anti-Israel activists, the organizations have the word Jewish in them. Jewish Voices for Peace. Okay, J Street's an interesting question. Okay, so I don't know about people like J Street for sure. If you would put them, J Street's not anti-Israel, right? A lot of us might have problems with J Street's policies, but J Street doesn't want to see Israel gone. Okay, Jewish Voices for Peace feels that the Zionist entity and Zionism is racist, and Israel's got to be wiped off the map. That's not J Street's position. Okay. Bernie Sanders is a perfect example, okay? Bernie Sanders doesn't want to see Israel destroyed, but feels that Israel is a corrupt place, and a corrupt country, just like, by the way, he feels that a lot of America is as well, okay? But that's a perfect example. Bernie Sanders is a secular Jew, doesn't look to Jewish values and let's say like classic Jewish values to guide him, but more his interpretation of what Jewish values are, and then applies it to things. Okay, and that's why he'll generally come out with an anti-Israel position. So if you were sitting with Bernie Sanders discussing Israel, you would be sitting there and close your eyes, and you would think to yourself, I must be sitting with a Palestinian because he's using all the Palestinians' talking points. Okay, that's how it's going to seem. Okay, now, so that's the first point. So you're talking generally to a Jew. Okay, now so this Jew sits there and says, listen, why do the poor Palestinians who have been stateless forever, right? First they were ruled by the Ottomans, then they were ruled by the British, and now they were ruled by the Jordanians. Okay, and now they're ruled by the Israelis. Where was their state? Why don't they get a state? Okay, so the first thing that you have to realize is you never, ever, ever, I hope you're listening, never, ever want to debate. Okay, and I say this ever. Once you've started to debate somebody, you've lost. What do I mean by that? Right? Oh, you look at like Ben Shapiro and the Jordan Peterson and these great debaters. They win every debate, right? It's not true. They've lost. Because what should their point be? Right? Should their goal be to win the debate and show how the other side is wrong? Or should their goal be ultimately to bring people to their side of the argument? Very few people, you don't hear many people walk around saying, I used to be a liberal Democrat, and then I heard Ben Shapiro, and now I'm a far right-wing conservative Republican, right? You very rarely ever hear anybody say that, okay? He's not very good at convincing, and that's not, by the way, that's not his goal. His goal is to entertain, and his goal is to make money, and his goal is to strengthen the base, right? So, okay, great. That's right. Charlie Kirk, Candace Owen, these people are not winning debates anywhere, okay? So, nah, you haven't, Shlomi. You've heard from people that were going there anyway, okay? They're not left-wing people.
Hey, Rabbi, you just don't run in the same circles I do.
Yeah, that's for sure true. But anyway, so I also don't have a list that I can filter out by Jews and non-Jews. But in any case, my point being is that our goal as Israel advocates is not to win a debate with somebody. Our goal is to find common ground and bring them to our side, or at least to get them to see that there is another side to the argument. So the first thing that I always do when I get into these discussions and somebody accuses Israel as being a bad thing, I try to find common ground. And I sit there and say, you know what? It's true. Palestinians have had the bad side of history forever. They don't have a good life. I would hate to be in the Palestinian situation right now. First thing I say. But now I ask them the next question. How did they get there? Is this really Israel's fault? And how do we make life better for them? Right? That's always what I ask. And then I try to show, that really most of and I'll explain to this as we go on, but most of the Palestinians' problems are self-caused, meaning they have corrupt leadership that's putting them down. We'll go through these things. The reason why Palestinians, let's say, just as an example quickly, they don't have a vote, okay, is because their leaders haven't held an election in 15 years. It's not because Israel doesn't give them the vote, okay? So that's where we have to sit there and say, right, when people talk to me about how bad Gaza is, I say, yes, we've got to make changes, 100%. And then they're like, great. I'm like, great. And then we say, okay, how do we get, and then I say Hamas and they say Israel to change their policies. And I say, wait, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, people in Gaza have it bad because Hamas is destroying their lives. And they're like, no, it's because Israel's destroying their lives. I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on a second. One of the two entities is taking foreign aid that's supposed to go to help people in Gaza and using it for terrorism. That's not Israel, that's Hamas. So it's got to be Hamas that has to change, and then we can improve Palestinians' lives. Rachel, is that your hand up, or do you have a question? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, so you disagree with like debating? What if you're on a college campus and somebody's trying to talk to you about the situation? Do you think that, and they're totally closed-minded, do you think that it's wrong to debate with them, or like,
I think it's
tell them that they're like, you shouldn't, I get it, you shouldn't say you're wrong, you should always be like, okay, I understand what you're saying, but blah blah blah. But let's say they are totally closed-minded and they are wrong in what they're saying.
So then,
Do you
my question is, what's your goal in the conversation here with this person?
Well, maybe to see your side, maybe to see,
You want them to see your
the
side.
correct side. Yeah, maybe for them to open their mind a little bit and not be so closed-minded.
Okay, so if I'm talking to somebody that's really close-minded, right? They will not listen to anything I say. So then I say, listen, I'm sorry, but I just get the sense that you're not really listening to me. So there's no point to being in this conversation. As I just walk away. I say, I'm sorry, like you're clearly set in your ways. I'm interested in dialogue. You're not. You're interested in debate. I have no reason to debate you because no one wins debates. I'm not going to convince you. You're not going to convince me. So we're just going to end up screaming at each other. So what's the point? I have better things to do with my time. If you're interested in an actual dialogue where we can discuss facts and we can discuss, narratives and we can discuss like where people are coming from, then I'm ready to have that talk with you. But if you're just so close-minded, then what would possibly be the reason for both of us to talk to each other? I'm perfectly.
But then you never end up getting your point across.
But they're not listening anyway. So why do you want to get your point across?
I guess.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Now, one second, Bo. Just Richie, if they're not listening, you're not getting your point across anyway. You're just saying that, but then you've never stated your side. Okay, why do I need to state my side? Have more self-confidence in that, right? I'm right whether or not this person hears me being right or not. I'm still right, right? Bo, go ahead.
You mind if I quote you? It might be a misquote, so I don't.
Okay,
but
yeah, so then
I
that's
believe
better.
you've said once before. Like the best, or like the only way that it's beneficial to debate someone is if there's an audience, because it's only beneficial for the audience.
Right, and rarely, by the way, and I'm less and less convinced that that's true also, because unless it's like a debate where like the rules are fair and you can be assured that you're going to be heard, right? So I wouldn't even say like that is really that much of a point to it, even if there is an audience, Look, if you have a crowd of people around you and pro-Palestinians, like, they surround you and then you see that there are people around that are actually like interested in listening, then I would say, okay, maybe that's a point for debating, because then you're not addressing your answers to the activist, you're addressing the answers to the crowd, And then I would say that what you should really be doing is not so much focused on the debate, but focused on what can I say to the crowd to get them to understand my viewpoint. So I'm actually having a conversation that's prompted by this other person next to me, but it's really I'm having a conversation with the people standing around me. That's the difference that I would say. But really, but to go to Bo's point and to Rachel's point, you never want an argument. So the first thing I would say is, yes, let's talk about what we do agree on. We both agree that Palestinian lives are not good. That's for sure. Palestinian lives can be better. Now let's discuss what's holding them back. Why don't they have a state? Let's look at the history. Do they have an opportunity to have a state? Did that ever happen? Right? And then what's the answer? Yes. On multiple occasions, they have been offered a state. Right? So why don't they have a state? Right? That's the question. Why did they say no? And sometimes you'll get, well, the offer wasn't really good enough. Okay, why wasn't the offer good enough? Well, because they should have had all of the land. Well, okay, so I believe that Jews have a right to the land of Israel. If you don't believe, and maybe not the whole right of the land, I believe it's the whole thing, but I'm willing to compromise, and that's exactly what our leaders did in 1948. They compromised. We didn't want to just have 55% of the land. We wanted to have 100% of the land. We felt we also deserved 100%. From the river to the sea is not just a Palestinian claim. It's also a Jewish claim. Now, we also feel that we have from the river to the sea, but we've always been willing to compromise on everything that we wanted in order to have at least some of what we want, right? In American kindergartners, there's a sing song that goes, "You get what you get, you don't be upset," right? So that's okay. So we weren't upset. We were happy with what we had. Palestinians said, no, the exact opposite. We want it all. If we don't have it all, then we don't want any of it. Okay. So that's what they said. So we had two different ways of looking at things, right? That's how we went about things. We had two different ways, and the Palestinians said no. Okay, great. So now we know why the Palestinians don't have a state, right? So if you're going to insist that you want everything, that you want 100%, you want it all, So then we can't really go anywhere because the only way that you're saying that Palestinians are going to be happy is if I disappear. Well, guess what? I'm not disappearing, and that's an unrealistic expectation, right? It's not going to happen. It's also unreasonable. So sorry, that's the end of our discussion now. Rebecca?
But like I was watching like his Instagrams, like, do you know like Rudy Israel? Like he like goes to like outside APAC and stuff. And I
Yeah.
was like watching one of his things and he was talking with someone, but they were saying how like it's not like you can't really say that it's like the Palestinians didn't do this, it's like the corrupt government. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, the average Palestinian never had, right. It was never a democracy, right? Right. It's never a democracy. So right. So you did, yeah. So
I met him before, and he's exactly like what you see on like all the videos. He's like super cool. I had breakfast with him once. He's amazing, super cool person.
So yeah, they actually I teach at Sheikh Hillel, so they're graduates of Hillel. So that's his brother actually just finished San Chanim, so it's very cool. Actually, that was the first soldier I ever went to see jump was Rudy's little brother. I stood with his parents and watched him jump. You guys, can I take a break and tell you like an amazing story about that jump? So it was the first time I've ever gone to see paratroopers jump. Paratroopers, for the life of me, I don't know why, because there's not one military in the world that actually still paratroops anywhere. Okay, so San Khanim, no one paratroops anyway. It's too dangerous. No military does it anymore. Okay, so just so you know, the one question I kept walking around asking everybody is, why are they doing this if this is never going to happen in war? And at every single jump, somebody breaks a leg. I've never understood this for the life of me, why they do this, but they do. The average paratrooper in the Israeli military does, I think, 5 or 6 jumps in their basic training. So I went to see this is one of my students. So I went to see him jump. So I drove like an hour and a half out over. They do it by the beach, and you go there early in the morning. You wait there for like an hour and a half until the plane comes, and then they jump out of the plane, and then you watch them all come down. Everybody cheers. They can't hear you cheering, but we all cheer anyway. They're like 1,000 feet in the air, so obviously they can't hear you cheer. And then you wait. They walk in. They're sweaty like crazy. It's absolutely disgusting. They're exhausted. They've been up for like, I don't know, 15 days straight or whatever, and they jump. It's an interesting experience. So I'm at this jump, and I see a guy from Los Angeles who's super like Haredi, like real Haredi guy from Los Angeles, but also like the guy's got to be worth a billion, maybe $2 billion. He's really wealthy, and he's standing in the middle of this field. And I taught his children, like when I was like 22, 23 years old, I just got to LA, and 24, that's when I taught his children. So his children are all grown, but they're not old enough that he has grandkids jumping out of an airplane. So he couldn't have any relatives there. So I said to him, I don't understand, what are you doing here? We know each other for a long time. So he said, like a couple of years ago, I wanted to do something like for Israel, but I'm like very Haredi, so like there's not much I can do for like the state of Israel. So what I decided to do was any Haredi that joins the army, I give them like extra money for like, I don't know, scholarships to things. He spends like a couple $1 million a year helping Haredi soldiers. It's like insane how much. I started doing the math, how much money he's spending. So he had 6 of his soldiers. He considers them like his soldiers jumping out of the plane that day. And then I looked over and I see he's got like Haredi families there. Like they're all like these are. I thought they were like had a day like on a tiyul, like on a trip or something. But no, they're there because their sons were jumping. It was like unbelievable to me. So that was just very cool. That was Rudy's little brother, Michal. But in any case, so back to this idea. So the first thing that we do is we establish this first step. This is going to be like a conversation that's going to go on for years. But the first thing that we do is we establish the fact that why don't the Palestinians have a state? Because the Palestinians demanded everything. And if you demand everything with a partner, right, and there's another side, then you're going to end up getting nothing. Because if you're only satisfied with everything and you're not getting everything, then you're going to walk away from the table. And you're going to be left with nothing. And then you can complain all you want about how you don't have nothing, but it's because you refuse to be practical. The Jews were just as upset. David Ben-Gurion almost turned the deal down. Many of Israel's founders said that we should turn down the partition plan, the United Nations plan in 1948. that we should turn it down and not create a state of Israel because we're giving up so much, right? With Tzvi Yehuda Kook, who was the first Rav Kook's son, who was like the leader of he's passed away, but the leader of what we would call the modern day settlement movement, cried in 1948. Cried, say, how can we give up Hebron and Beit El, right, and Shechem? We're giving up our cities. These are our cities. Yerushalayim, the old city of Yerushalayim. So yeah, we have a state, which is great, but how can we give up? We give up on so much, right? It wasn't, but we did. We gave up. The Palestinians' refusal to compromise has always harmed them. It's always put them at a disadvantage. So that's the first step. The next step we got to ask now is, okay, so the Palestinians don't have a state. What has happened since then? What steps have they taken? Have they chosen to try to correct that error, right? Have they tried to walk that error back? Have they engaged in diplomacy to try to get Israel to compromise? Right? And has Israel refused? Has Israel said, that's it, you made a decision, bad decision, that's it? Or has Israel gone out of its way to try? Let's go through the history. And the history will prove that Israel has always reached out and tried to create a peaceful solution with the Palestinians to give them what they've wanted. Again, not everything, okay? And the Palestinians have consistently made unreasonable demands in order to get what Israel was offering them, okay? And then you have the second thing, which is that the Palestinians have chosen not only to have the Palestinians have chosen not only to have the Palestinians have chosen not only to not engage in diplomacy that's productive to get to them where they need to go, but they've also chosen terror. Their resistance hasn't taken the form of civil disobedience, but it's taken the form, right? This isn't like Martin Luther King. It's taken the form of terrorism. So you can't, on the one hand, use terror and then wonder why Israel's not helping you and why you don't have a state. Does everybody understand? Okay, Rebecca, go ahead.
Do you think like the terrorist attacks and stuff are like because of like some people believe that in their forgot what it's called, like their religion says that you should kill Jews, or like they just don't like them? Actually,
well, you see, the thing is that it's clear, right, that not every Muslim feels that you should kill Jews, right? There are like 1.3 billion Muslims in the world. If every single one of them felt that they have a commandment to kill Jews, right? They all felt that way. We'd have a lot. We'd be losing a tremendous amount of Jews, right? We would not win that battle. Okay, so it's clear that yes, there are fundamentalist Muslims that feel that Jews have to die, but it's also clear that they're the overwhelming minority. Okay, like tremendous overwhelming. I have a lot of Muslim friends. I don't have an Instagram filter that can filter them out from my regular friends, but I have sleeping. But I have I have a lot of Muslim friends, and
what do you mean I'm sleeping?
And with my Palestinian friends, I ask them, I say, like, when you go to the mosque and they talk about killing Jews, what do you do? And they say, no, not every mosque talks about killing Jews. Like, I don't know what mosque you're going to, but the one we go to doesn't talk about killing Jews, And if so that's so yes, there are mosques, 100%. There are mosques that talk about killing Jews. Keep in mind, if only 1% of Muslims feel that you should kill Jews, and there are 1.3 billion Muslims out there, that 1% is a lot of Muslims, okay? That's a lot of people, right? I always tell people, if only 1% of Palestinians, and it's more, if only 1% of Palestinians believed in killing Israelis in order to further their political ambitions, right? And there are 23 Palestinians that live next to me in Yericho, and only 1% feel that they should use violence against me, right? So who's doing the math here, right? So that's a lot of Palestinians, right? That's a couple hundred Palestinians who live within a 10-minute drive of me that will feel that they should kill me. Okay, I don't know about you, right? But if you had a couple hundred people that lived right near you that want to kill you, that should cause you to worry, right? That should cause you to worry. It causes me to wear a gun every day, right? So that's right. So that makes me nervous. That's something to keep in mind. Okay, we shall stop here. Please get your stuff in by Thursday, okay, so that we can start working on it. I'm very Excited about putting this out. I think that it's going to be like a tremendous accomplishment for all of us. Okay, and then as soon as we put that out, then we'll start working on this election thing, and then we'll go on to getting. I think November's goal is to get members of Congress. I know December's goal is to take a trip to Washington on a lobbying mission. I don't know with Corona. I'm terrified. I don't know how this is going to work out, but we'll see. Who knows what's going to be? Okay. Okay. One last thing. I just want to make sure, make mention of one last thing for the election. That I think that March is UAE. Hopefully, Talia. Hopefully. So we'll see. We'll see. All my friends are going to the UAE. Rafi's dad went. And I just had the deputy mayor of Yerushalayim, who I'm close to. She just went, and none of them are inviting me to go on these trips with them. So, but
maybe you'll go to Bahrain next week.
Who's going?
There's a delegation going to Bahrain.
I know. I'm not. I know. No one invites me. I don't know why. It's like, for some reason they don't need like rabbis that are pro-Israel advocates to go on these trips. I can't understand why. They like the business leaders like Rafi's dad. Politicians, they don't have a, nobody's inviting like the average Joe Schmoes like me. But we'll see. Any case, my truth is I wouldn't want to go now. That's like I'm very happy with staying in my house for my whole life under this lockdown. But I have no interest in leaving Israel. But in any case, my point is like this, that in most elections, okay, this is something that you should spread around. The more you talk about this, the better it is. And I'll tell you why I think it could actually maybe even save lives. What's going to happen on November 3rd is everyone's going to wait for election results, okay? They're not going to come in. They're not going to come in for a couple of weeks. We're not going to know who won this election for a couple of weeks, maybe not even until mid-December, okay? And if people's expectations are that and I have no doubt that Donald Trump is going to declare a victory that night. Zero doubt in my mind. It does not make a difference what the results are. I have no doubt he's going to get up and say, I won the election. Okay. And then it could very well be that he did or didn't win the election. But there could very well be violence if people expect there to be a winner and no one calls the winner. The reason why there won't this year is different is because between 30 and 40% of ballots are supposed to be mailed in. Okay. Imagine trying to open up 150,000 envelopes and how long that takes, right? If you have 1,000 people doing it, it still takes you all night long. And none of these places have 1,000 people doing it. Okay. So it takes a lot. And a lot of these states, for some odd stupid reason, require 2 envelopes. So now you're asking people to rip open 2 envelopes for every ballot and then read them, get them certified, checked. This takes a long time. So you're not going to have results for between maybe 2 weeks to a month. Okay. In Israel, that's enough time to have another election already. Okay. So that's so you're really looking at a long time. So please tell people, the more people you tell, the more it gets out there, the more we lower expectations and you don't have rioting, which I'm very nervous about happening. Okay. On that happy note, have a very good night. Rafi, I'll see you in the morning. Okay.
Yes, thank you.